Hello and welcome back to video number 4 in my Paradox Interactive Historical Playthrough Mega Series, playing England to America, the historical precursors of what will hopefully, they're too far off the map, we can't see them yet, be America, and playing as the historical precursors, their British ancestors, so to speak. So we're playing as England. This is video number 4. Now, to get started with this video, I have a huge mess to clean up. I'm going to be trying to play as Henry II, Henry Plantagenet, King Henry II, which is this guy. Now, the big mess that I've made is in being eager to find somebody to ally with in France, which is historically accurate. I married Queen Maud off to King Guy of France, and Henry, first of all, is going to inherit all of France, not historically accurate, but also he's not of the original dynasty that I began gameplay with, so basically it's going to be like, yeah, you're going to lose if you do that. So what we're going to do is we are going to switch characters to him, but not before doing a couple things, and the very first thing I need to do is give a huge, massive medieval hero shout out to Winslow's Art on YouTube for showing me how you can actually rename children. Oh my gosh, this has made my game so much better. Thank you, a million thank yous. So this is now going to be Henry, as it should be. So what I'm going to do, try to do at least, is I'm going to see if I can grant him absolutely nothing. Okay, I was going to try and grant him titles to give him as much of my land as I possibly can. Can I even give away my land? Mercia. Okay, I only have these two. And I can't grant them to anyone. Okay, well, there you go. I gotta figure out a way to get him some land. I mean, he's got some land right now, and I could and will probably just play as him right away. And what we're gonna do is then hope that he inherits. So he's got a lot of inheriting he can do here. And hopefully through his mother will inherit a claim on the Kingdom of England. So let's fast forward to adult Henry and see what he can do. Or we will rewind 1,000 times because I have screwed this up so badly that the game is not even playable anymore. I could get into some of the details, but again, I noted previously the whole place converted to like the Kingdom of Wales, and then when Maud died and passed on her claim on England to King Henry II, he took it over. The whole thing was still called Wales. Everybody hated him so badly that there was an immediate, like, countrywide revolution. Anyway, I rewound. I just had to rewind back to saves. We're back playing as Henry I again with a new mod. I'm not going to marry her off to the King of France, which was a massive, massive, massive mistake. One of the things we are going to do, just because I've got a ton of glory after having won a crusade, random, not historically accurate piece, is we're going to reform the English culture for a little bit, because this will give us a little bit of a chance to talk about how oriented around justice and the king's justice King Henry I and also King Henry II was. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when we get to King Henry II, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to spend some of this glory and switch us over to the legalistic culture tradition. Would I really describe the English people as legalistic? Not so much, but what I would describe them as is clinging tightly to their ancient traditions, which became their form of laws. And we're going to see in this video, a little bit later, how it was this sort of, I don't want to say evolution, but growth. Yeah, evolution is probably a good term. The evolution of those traditions that became ultimately the form of English common law, which became the roots of English and American democracy and constitutional law. So for now, we're going to spend our prestige on that and begin the road down justice and legalism. Okay, so with that, again, here's where we are. We're back to rewound. I've got mod. What's killing me is this sterile thing that I'm passing on to my kids as well. And so I've done everything I possibly can to climb down this. Hopefully we're going to keep mod alive. And so we're also too far in to the time that I think King Henry II should have been born. Let's see. King Henry II birth. When was he born? In 1133. Let's say that was 4 years ago. So really, this should be King Henry, right? The second, because King Henry II truly was the son of Princess Queen Maud, who was the son of King Henry I. So we're way past time on this one. If King Henry I has a male child, which would be good, a non-sterile, I'm just going to name him Henry, and we're going to skip Maud. All right, let's fast forward. Here we are in 1154 AD, and we are not the Kingdom of Wales, thankfully. That was really annoying. Anyway, so we're still playing as Henry I. Henry II is hopefully going to live. He has typhus. He had a successful treatment. So hopefully he's going to live. He's looking pretty bad. Anyway, 1154 was the beginning of the reign of Henry II. And I mentioned, I'm pretty sure already, I think even in past videos, that he inherited his mother's claim to the entire Kingdom of England, and then also ended up, by happenstance, marrying Eleanor of Aquitaine. I believe that's right. And she ended up, and through his marriage, ended up gaining control of the following areas: Poitiers, Aquitaine, Gascon, and I believe Armagnac. And so what ended up happening is, including properties in Brittany, which we have already, this whole western side of France belonged to England, or at least all of its duchies swore fealty to England, but in turn, the King of England, Henry II, theoretically swore fealty to France. So I tried to set that up like some big marriage thingy, and in fact, the King of Aquitaine is married to my daughter, Maud, which is kind of close to that, but she's sterile, and they have no kids. So that would be cool if I could do something about that, but the problem is, if he dies, basically, I think like his sister gets the entire Kingdom of Aquitaine. So the only thing I can do is really go after these territories by warfare, which is not historically accurate. Now, England did fight against France a lot, and we're going to be doing a lot of that. But I was really hoping I could do it by like diplomatic fiat, so to speak, but it just didn't work out. And again, I had to rewind the entire game, and so we're just going to do it by military to basically have the territories that they had. And this was known as the Angevin Empire. Now, we're not going to create an empire, at least I don't think we are. And that comes from the ownership of Anjou, okay, which we have. We have the entire thing. Should be under my control. Yes, it is. Okay, I don't know what this little one is out here. So we're going to do that. We're going to do some warfare and bring King Henry II's ownership of territories on the France continent up to what they historically were. Things are going well in the year 1162. We're beginning to piece together a lot more of the Angevin Empire. We are still playing as King Henry I, but I have a living heir in King Henry II. We should be playing as King Henry II. In 1162, there erupted a very interesting conflict between King Henry II and Sir, later Saint, Thomas Beckett. So this is something that I can't really simulate at all in the game, but wish that I could. So you've heard me kind of say good things about the game and occasionally complain. I admit it. A little bit of a complaint bordering more on a suggestion here, but, and I think this is on the roadmap, religion really is kind of a non-issue. I mean, you really don't do a whole lot with it, right? Now, it shapes a lot of gameplay in terms of what you can and cannot do, what your culture looks like, benefits, bonuses, debuffs. Pilgrimages are great. Love pilgrimages. Love holy sites. That's cool. But in England, and speaking of Sir Thomas Beckett, the political interplay between the church and the crown was significant. And King Henry II entered into really kind of a game of chicken, of political chicken, with Sir Thomas Beckett, where the Pope, who we have here, we've got a Pope, right? There he is, was basically building up their clout, their say, and looking to be considered as powerful as the king in every land, each and every land where there was the Catholic Church. So the king would be considered the head of the temporal government, the worldly, the earthly, and the church would be in control of the spiritual government. And for a while in England, that was really just relegated to the bishoprics, and the temple holdings. And so we do see that here, where taxes come in, and you have to have good relations with the church. That's about the closest that you get, though. There are some things where you can request claims and everything like that. So I'm not saying there's nothing here. But what this game would really benefit from would be almost something along the lines of the scales of power, this is just my opinion, on the religious scales. So in other words, you could, for example, and this did happen, if the king sort of knocked the church back a notch, if you will, they would begin to threaten things like excommunication, withholding certain blessings, and then the people would freak out because they were like, we can't baptize our kids, we can't bury our dead, we can't, and so that would turn against the king. If the king didn't give them enough power. If the king gave them too much power, they would start demanding approval and veto over certain laws, over certain appointments to the council, so it was this balance back and forth here. I think this game, and I have so much faith in Paradox developers, I really do, they could rock this. Unfortunately, I can't do anything to simulate that. I was going to come in here and be like, you know what, maybe what I'll do is like knock down all the temples. I don't even think you can do that, really. Like, once a temple exists, like, it's up. Because that is what happened. King Henry II and Sir Thomas Beckett really fought with each other. And Henry was like, you've overstepped. I'm going to take away some of your lands. And instead of backing down and saying, okay, give us our lands, we'll do what you want, they were like, all right, bro, do whatever you want. But guess what? Your people can't get baptized and they can't bury their dead, so enjoy hell. And then it went so far as threats of excommunication, and they were right up against each other. And at a certain point, Henry II exclaimed, will someone not get rid of this vile priest for me? And a few of his knights actually heard it and snuck off and dragged Thomas Beckett from Sanctuary and killed him, which was not Henry's goal. He just like shouted out in frustration. So anyway, a little fun bit of history, I think, there, and something that Crusader Kings 3 could absolutely just knock out of the park with good design, and I have every faith that they will. In 1171, King Henry II, who is still not king, and still prince. Anyway, King Henry II, who was ruling England, because his father wouldn't die, turned his attention toward Ireland. So this is the first time we're going to really kind of focus a little bit on Ireland. Now, involvement in both Scotland and Ireland is difficult in the game not just logically. But there was historically speaking, there was this concept of overlordship, that the Irish were forced against their will to accept overlordship. Well, the game easily has those concepts. It's called vassalization. What we really don't have is this concept of being in control of Ireland while them not being considered fully integrated with England. That's not something we can do. So we can only conquer them, really, or vassalize them, or whatever. I mean, I guess I could... There is the forced vassalization option. I don't know where that is off the top of my head. Let's search for it together. I think it's under diplomacy. There it is, right there. Okay, you can use the forced vassalization casus belli. I just don't really have that, and it's going to take too long to do it. So what we're going to do is begin the simulation of this by reaching out for claim fabrications on Ireland. Now, England did not, and my research uses the word penetrate, they didn't go far enough. So there was this concept beyond which, as you pressed further west into wildland, that it was into Ireland, excuse me, that it was considered, and this is an area of great both Irish and English pride. So anyone hearing this and knowing that I'm saying this wrong, go ahead and just rip me to pieces with your comments. I welcome correction on this. But there was this premise of, I think it was in Central Ireland, that they began to refer to as the Pale. There was an area that beyond that was like a no man's land. I do wonder if the phrase beyond the pale comes from that, such that you could be, and English rulers typically were like officially the overlords of this area, but they were also known as like absentee landlords, where it's like, yeah, I own that land, but yeah, I'm never really there. And so accordingly, the day-to-day leadership of it wasn't really affected all that much. It's like, yeah, okay, we've got to say that these guys are our bosses, but they're not really, you know. And so again, I might be getting that kind of wrong, but I don't think that I am. So I'm reluctant to go ahead and like paint the map red. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try and focus on this one duchy. Oh no, I was looking at that wrong. So let's see. Let's do this properly. So just these areas here in the southeast, I'm going to kind of focus on that and try and slowly to, and obviously not right away because I don't even have the claim. So that is us making inroads into Ireland, and it's probably about the most we're going to do for this series. Now, Scotland is a completely other matter, but we're going to save discussion of Scotland for King Edward I, which will be the end of this. Will that be the end of this video? Yeah, we're going to end around Edward. Okay, it is about time we finally catch up with actual time. King Henry I has died. King Henry II is now in power. It's historically accurate time frame. They are named historically accurate. Their children are named historically accurate. Again, thanks to my friend who said told me how to rename my kids. I'm doing something a little bit backwards here, where Prince Richard, also known as King Richard the Lionheart, was the eldest, whereas his son, Prince John, was the younger brother. And so this is kind of switched around a little bit. I did this for two reasons. One, because John ended up getting more of a diplomacy intrigue focus, and Churchill's book says that while Richard was extremely skilled at war, that he was as a baby in diplomacy. So it just doesn't seem like it's kind of going to work out all that well in that way. And the other thing too is we're going to talk about King Richard a little bit, come closer to the time. He kind of really barely was a king of England, which is weird because we know a lot about him, like mythologically speaking. But let's save that until then. What we are, and the last thing we're going to talk about, King Henry, new King Henry, King Henry II, is, as I pointed out earlier, he's very much oriented around law and justice. And so we have, as I pointed out earlier, added the tradition, the legalistic tradition that successfully came through for us on the English side. And also, King Henry II introduced something that was radical and never heard of ever, and that was the concept of trial by jury. Up until that time, courts really involved the testimony of men who directly had the facts. And so they were interviewed by, the judge or whatever, and they were the ones that had the facts themselves. So we now call those witnesses, right? So the jury and the witnesses there was no such thing as jury. The witnesses were the people who had the facts. And then the judge just decided. But the concept of true and good men who would hear the facts and help pass judgment on that was a brand new and radical thing that King Henry II introduced. And it was to, again, allow him to add more law, centralize crown authority more without breaking tradition. That was very important for the smart English kings, because the moment they broke tradition, everybody would rise up against them, of course, which is what we have happening all over the place here. But that's fine. That's just what happens when a new heir comes into play. I expect, unfortunately, quite a few more of these. So that is really the last we're going to talk about King Henry II, because I've been basically playing as him. And so we're going to fast forward in time now, unless something else comes up, to the reigns of King Richard the Lionheart and Prince and soon-to-be King John. Okay, let's take a pause for a bit. I just got done winning a war against France, territorial expansion war, to get the Duchy of Aquitaine. And so, in 1189, where we are right now, King Richard the Lionheart was officially the King of England. Talked about earlier how we're not even going to make him be king. We're going to get into that in a minute. But for now, I'm just feeling really proud about something, and that is, let's look at these boundaries. Okay, this is looking pretty close to the Angevin Empire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a kind of little image up here. And let's see if we can get that sort of there in the center, like that. Okay, and so you can see we are looking pretty good. Pretty accurate. Alright, so let's slide that over a little bit. There we go. Okay, what we haven't done yet is, you can see in the image there's a lot more of Ireland that's occupied than we have, this southeastern portion, which Alba, Scotland has that, so it's kind of the main reason I haven't done that. And then also what you can see in the image is that this kind of goes out a little further here. Let's see what is that? A little into Auvergne and Bourbon. And so I'm just not really doing that because I don't want to take those whole duchies. I've been going kind of duchy at a time. But I think for the most part, we're looking pretty good, except for this stupid thing here that's owned by the Duchy of Kent, right in the middle of the... and is that like Paris? I mean, what is that? Okay, I don't know what that is. Anyway, not historically accurate. But otherwise, I'm feeling pretty proud of this, that we've done a lot. Okay, and so I'm highlighting this also because this is the last you're ever going to see this. We're going to start strategically losing territory in order to keep up with history. All right, so let's go through the kids. So, like I said earlier, Richard really was the oldest. In fact, if he just died, that would be good. So let me just run through him. We're going to completely ignore his reign entirely. And here's why. A couple things. Number one, didn't know this. Richard only set foot in England like twice in his entire life, for no more than like a few months. So he's such a famous king of England. Richard the Lionheart, he was King Richard, who came back from the Crusades and everything. And so even though he basically was never around, the people hardly ever saw him, he was all about war, Crusades, and bankrupting the country in order to wage war and do the Crusades, and the people loved him for it. Because in their eyes, the king was the righteous crusader off crusading for Jerusalem, to recover Jerusalem, even though in the game we have not lost Jerusalem. We got it and then in the First Crusade and never lost it. So in reality, he went on a third crusade to recover it and failed, to the point where all he could do was stand at a high hill and look at it, and was otherwise defeated and lost so much of his army and had to be turned around. Later on, he was invited back by the Muslim ruler of Jerusalem, and so it says in my source material, he did finally enter Jerusalem, but it was as a tourist, not as a conqueror. On his way back from the crusade, he was captured by the Holy Roman Emperor, well, actually one of the Holy Roman Empire's vassals, and then turned over to the Holy Roman Empire, and it was his brother, John, who is our heir. Let's bring him up. And this is Prince John. This is the famous Prince John of Robin Hood legend, you know, from whether it's the cartoon or the Kevin Costner version, or whichever, pick your favorite Robin Hood or unfavorite Robin Hood. This is the evil, conniving, greedy Prince John. Right? Prince John actually tried to pay the Holy Roman Emperor to keep him in prison, because while Richard was away on the Crusades, John was the regent and basically set himself up to be the king. So even though Richard paid for himself to be free, and again, he bankrupted the country again to pay for his release, he then went right back to war with somebody, was marching too close to the walls of whatever castle he was going after, took a crossbow bolt to the neck and died. And his brother John became king. So we're going to actually skip Richard entirely, because I can't make a crusade happen. And what else? Again, like, he was barely ever in England. John has a lot to do with England. So we're going to fast forward now to his reign. So literally every one of my kids got smallpox, and literally every one of them recovered except John, who died. My primary heir, married, even already had a son named Henry, which is next in line, and he died. You know, I really like making these videos, and I have a lot of time, or a lot of good times, but Crusader Kings of the game is like, bro, I am not gonna let you execute your plan. So, alright, Crusader Kings 3, you win again. So, we're going to swap Richard in for John and have him behave like John. Oh, and he's chaste too, sweet. Alright, never mind. We need a kid. I mean, I need an heir. Heirs. So, the next king of England following King John was John's son, Henry III. So, but we still have a lot of stuff to do on King John, who now I think is King Richard, and I don't think I can rename him anymore. Yep, sorry. So, John didn't take over until 1199. So what I might do is, as a backup plan, maybe have this guy, this kid, be, let's see, let's call him New John. Alright, a much better name, and let's hope that he lives. Although, you know what? Is that gonna work out? Probably not. Let's leave him as Henry. Can you change their names twice? And maybe he'll be Henry III. Alright, so let's just put it back. Just in case Richard can't have kids. Alright, let's keep going. Ooh. Oops. I didn't even see this guy because he's got a girl's haircut. Alright, so I did have another son, but now I don't. So off you go. Okay. What killed him? Smallpox? Yep. Okay, I thought all of them got cured. So there you go. Alright. Let's keep going. Ooh, smallpox is working its way through the Plantagenet household, man. It is brutal. Alright, King Richard is like, I will not be denied. You must tell my history. So, alright, we're stuck. Let's keep going. Ooh, and I lost my wife. Man, this minor plague is ripping its way through my family at this point. Full on good court physician, control plagues. Heck yeah. Alright, well, let's marry an even younger woman if we can. By combination of kind of dumb luck and force of will, I have a King John in place in a historically accurate time period. We already passed by the year 1215, which is unfortunate because something significant happened at this time. So I need to kind of go through this. Here's what things are looking like. Looking pretty similar to where we left off. A little bit more land here. I didn't do that on purpose. That's not historically accurate. What happened? Gosh, there's so much to say here. So let's do the short version of it. John was an oppressive king, just like we all believe Prince John and a cheat, you know, and all this stuff. And he warred with his barons and really oppressed them. But they managed to corner him and had the Pope on their side and managed to basically pin him down and force him to agree to something that had never been done before, and that was a royal guarantee of baronial rights, also known as the Magna Carta. So he was forced by them to sign this charter, and it gave various guarantees that essentially they couldn't be taken advantage of by royal prerogative and at his whim. Now, interestingly enough, the Magna Carta had nothing to do with common people at all. We hear the Magna Carta and we think, oh, you know, it's this great document that brought about, like, liberty and... no, it was just the barons going, bro, we don't really care about normal people, peasants and stuff at all. We care about us, like, and not even you. So the Magna Carta was basically putting King John's back against the wall and forcing him to sign this dealie, all right, this document, the charter. So I'm simulating King John in a few ways. Let's take a look. One is, not knowing why I closed that, I'm for obvious reasons climbing down the avaricious tree. Two, I am extorting my subjects as often as I can. I don't think I can do it yet. Oh, I can. Nope. Can I? Can I? Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's extort some subjects, because that was what he did. The other thing that I'm really trying to do is upset them, because during King John's reign, significant land in continental France was lost, including the Duchy of Normandy, which, if you recall from the previous video, was where this all started off. So really sort of the ancestral lands of the House Normandy. We're now the Plantagenets. I don't think I can create a cadet branch. If I could, I would totally do that as the Plantagenets. Those were lost to England forever under King John's reign. Way to go, bro. You had one job. Actually, he had a lot of jobs, but anyway. So what I'm also trying to do, and just I'm really not doing it all that well, is getting these people to get upset and declare independence. Short of that, I could just basically find this guy and sort of, I think, grant him independence. And so, you know, I may end up having to do that. But really what I'm trying to do is upset them to the point where they will do an independence war. Additionally, every time they're looking to do a reduced crown authority down to limited crown, because I've been up at high crown authority. So when they were up at high and I got a Liberty faction, I accepted it, okay, as opposed to fighting them. So that's what we're doing to simulate King John. I'm not going to have you just sit around and watch me do that, but boy, by the next time I bring you back into this, let's hope that basically all this land on continental France should be lost. Alright, fast forward to the year 1257, which is not any historically significant year, but it is significant to the game because King John finally died of the measles. 67 years old, he lived forever, which was kind of lame. Anyway, so my son Henry III, named appropriately, did come to the throne after this. Now, Henry III actually reigned from 1216 to around the 1270s. So, let's see how old he is. He's 42. Okay. He's got a son. Let's take a look a little bit around. One day I'll be like you. Actually, you will not. So, Henry III's reign, in my opinion, was somewhat unremarkable. He, I think, was kind of like foppish and really into like lavish parties and charity. He was very generous, but he really got himself into a lot of trouble. We're not going to really spend any time on him beyond just this description. Got himself into trouble with his nobles and everything because he was like is the term, I think the term is Francophile, where like he loves France. Hopefully I didn't use the term where you hate France. If I did, go ahead and correct me. And if I mispronounced it, I have no idea how that word is pronounced. I just pronounce it like it sounds. Anyway, moving on. So he was in love with France and all things French, and so all of his inner council were Frenchmen, like French. And so that did not sit well with his barons and dukes and earls and everything, who basically thought, like, you're giving positions to people that don't really matter. And so he again isn't really famous. Instead, who we're really going to focus on and who's going to be the final king, God willing, in this episode is Edward I, also known as Longshanks. So let's fast forward again and see if this kid survives and can grow to be his historical reality. You know what? This, I can't not do this. Favor skilled outsiders. And, so we're going to hire skilled characters from outside. This is literally what happened in history. It's going to suck. Because I'm already facing factions and everything like that. But I have to do it. So, it is, we have to do this. Lesser characters in service with your court chaplain. Fringe nobility. I've never even done this before. Okay. Petty lordlings, even barons. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That's gotta be it. Alright, so I'm gonna, not make you watch exactly what I'm gonna choose here, but I didn't even realize there was a decision having to do with exactly what King Henry III was accused of doing. So we're going to pay the price for it and hope that I can stay in power. Let's keep going. In 1271, we've arrived at the reign of King Edward I, who's the last king that's going to appear in this video. Edward I, also known as Longshanks. To my surprise, he was called Longshanks not because he had long hair, which he did, but rather because his legs were so long that he could grip his horse. I had no idea. So we're going to explore a lot of Edward I's rule, conquests, obviously, but just to pick up from his father, Henry III, one thing that I left off from that is that Henry III had basically more forced upon him, kind of like King John did in the Magna Carta. Henry III had what were called the provisions forced upon him, and like I said earlier, his nobles were upset about how much he recruited foreigners into the land. And so one of the provisions, one of many of the provisions, was that they required a certain number of people to be chosen for Henry III. Again, that would be his father, his council. And they broke it up, saying your council's going to be this amount of size, half of whom can be appointed by you, and half of whom must be appointed by us. And that initial body was called Parliament. So, yes, that under Henry III's watch, the first Parliament, now it has barely any proximity or similarity to the current form of Parliament, but that is where the term basically got its start from. And one of the consequences that King Edward had to deal with when working with Parliament was nobles basically would not be able, he could no longer demand of them men, fighting men, or their feuds, right, their levies. And so in a way, in a weird kind of a way, that was the end of feudalism, because feudalism was essentially the concept of the lord saying, you need to supply me with a certain number of men, which of course we see in this game known as levies, right? And we see that all of our levies are supplied by, well, not all of them, but a portion of our levies are supplied by vassals. That came to an end under King Edward's rule. And instead of levies supplied by feudal obligation, there was a shift to more paid troops. So we're not going to really touch on that at all for the rest of the Crusader Kings 3, because for whatever reason, levies stick around until the end of Crusader Kings 3. We're going to see more about paid troops in Europa Universalis. But we are going to change up the constitution of our troops. I'll get to that in a little bit. There's a lot to go unpack here with Edward I. What I'm going to get started on right away, which is a little out of order, is I've had just some weird separation of the kingdom by way of the Duke of Wessex attacking Wales, and basically then declaring himself King of Wales and also his territories in Wessex. So we are going to basically immediately declare on him. Alright, so we should be able to seize all de jure lands. Okay, fine. Your claims. Kingdom of Wales. Alright, there we go. So that's exactly the war that I want. What's he gonna do? Who's joining this? Who's his allies? Well, that's my own vassal, so I don't think he's gonna join, right? And whoever these Aegean islands are. Well, you know what? I have vassals, or I have allies of my own. I'm pretty sure Holy Roman Emperor is mine. Yeah, so, alright, let's go ahead and do this. Okay. I don't think my vassal's gonna join against me, but let's go ahead and call in HRE. And let's go. Alright, we're gonna get this battle fought and hopefully take the rest of the country back, and then we're gonna talk about Wales. Fastest war ever fought. We went ahead and basically captured him right away. And so we will go ahead and just enforce our demands right away. And there you go. Alright, so one of the things, major things to talk about and do is Edward, while serving with his father Henry, really kind of got his business handed to him at the hands of the Welsh originally. Now, he overtook them eventually, and we kind of just have. Now, unfortunately, my vassals have been taking control of Wales for a long time. And one of the great, powerful tools that the Welsh had, that the English then co-opted for themselves, was the longbow. And so we are going to create longbowmen, which we can do. And in fact, I'm going to completely replace all of my ranged with longbowmen. So let's do that now. It was the Welsh longbowmen, later again co-opted as the English longbowmen, that revolutionized not only battle in all of, well, obviously, battle in all of England, obviously, but also battle in all of Europe, because the longbow itself began to do away with the days of mail-clad knights, because a longbow could fire from super far away and completely penetrate armor, kill horses, kill mounted knights. We're going to talk about that a bit more in the next video. But one of Edward's predominant military strengths became, again, not right away, but became the longbow, and that's a significant, obviously significant part of English history, which we're going to simulate right now. And we're just going to get these guys kind of pumped up. Let's, you know what, let's go. Let's go all the way. Why not? Longbowmen, bring it. Longbowmen stationed in Nottingham is kind of cracking me up. We got Robin Hood here. Okay, continuing on as Edward, one of the things that King Edward was known for is being everywhere all at once. He was tireless. He would ride constantly here and to and fro across his kingdom. Again, we got too much land here. I haven't been able to get rid of it. And so we're going to just kind of simulate that by doing a grand tour. So we'll do a Majesty tour. You know what? Or should we do a taxation tour? I'll go ahead and do with a Majesty tour. It was really more of a, like, checking up to make sure things are going the way they should. So you know what? Let's switch to an intimidation tour instead. And we'll get just kind of a, yeah, this guy, he needs to be intimidated pretty bad. That's the guy that I just stopped from being captured and stopped from being the King of Wales. He got a little too big for his britches. So we'll go ahead and just maybe cross the channel. And this guy looks cool. And up here we'll go, you know, oh, well, no. Okay, it's going to be 4,000. Alright, so maybe pass on that. So let's get rid of some of these stops. Okay. So we'll just do, wow, this is going to cost frickin' 2,700 gold to just take a trip across the channel. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. Anyway, we will go ahead and proceed forward with this to, again, simulate how much Edward kind of was back and forth. Like, he would show up just to make sure things were on track, you know. And under Edward's reign, it was all about restoring order. The king had been pushed around. King John had been pushed around by the Magna Carta. Henry III had been pushed around by the provisions. And so Edward was all about restoring order. So one of the other things we're going to do, I don't know that I want to do it right now, but we're going to go for absolute crown authority. I've got decent vassal approval at this point. I don't really want to... So I think... But he's just came into being a king. In fact, I might even still have a short reign. Okay, declare war. No, there's no... Yeah, there it is. -10. See, a short reign. So I think once my short reign debuff dies, I'll go ahead and max out absolute crown authority. So let's get to traveling and intimidating, and then we're going to talk about Scotland. Okay, having completed the intimidation tour, we're going to go ahead and just pass absolute crown authority in simulation of King Edward I really ruling over England, you know, with an iron fist, so to speak, and making centralized authority and a restoration of the crown's authority like a key aspect of his rule. So we're going to turn the rest of this, and again, not much more. This is really just kind of, we're wrapping it up. We're going to turn the rest of this video towards the conquest of Scotland, which did happen and was sort of a key piece of Edward I's reign. So if anybody's seen Braveheart, of course, that's Longshanks. That's him, Edward I. Of course, he was the bad guy in that one. I don't know. He might have gotten a little bit of a unfair rap. He was certainly a brutal and ruthless ruler, but kind of everybody was during this time. The Scots even had a truce or an alliance with him, and then kind of turned their back on it to join France in assaulting England. So I can't say that I blame him for cracking down on them for that. Again, I'm not culturally aware of these things, and so I could be offending somebody by those statements, but I'm not trying to take even a moral judgment on it at all. Just to say that, well, the bad guy is me, I suppose. And so we're going to begin our invasion of Scotland by essentially, it looks like I can get a few claims on some of these lands from the Pope. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then begin pressing those claims for war. So let's do it. I think we can do this right now, right? That's this guy. Who's this guy? All right. Well, we can press him, or we can. Oh, this is somebody else's claims. Okay. All right. Anyway, we'll explore this a little bit more and start pushing into the north with our longbow. Fast forward a bit, and we're going to go ahead and just wrap up here. Make a couple notes. First of all, we've taken a lot of Scotland. I haven't taken all of Scotland, first of all, because it belongs... Well, this is Iceland, and yet, really, this is the same guy who was running Scotland for a while. But I wanted to not take all of Iceland and just wrap up this episode by talking about King Edward II. We're not playing him right now. We're still playing King Edward I. But his son, King Edward II, who was known for very little besides being kind of just a weak king. He had troubles with France, he had troubles with Scotland, he was eventually deposed and murdered, and Edward suffered a humiliating defeat in 1314 by Sir Robert the Bruce at Bannockburn. And it really is one of the things that led to him being just cast off. And there was eventually rebellion, he was deposed, and ultimately murdered. And his son, Edward III, was placed on the throne, and it's Edward III that we're going to start the next and final Crusader Kings episode with, coming up next, where we're going to go all the way through the 100 Years' War and then on to Europa Universalis. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.